So the first thing I wanted to say, and we talked a little bit about before, but now that the fight is here, there's a build for it, and all this kind of, we've had time to breathe after the announcement like a month or so ago. Is Mike Perry, in your mind, is he a more dangerous fight than Mike Tyson, considering Mike Perry's been doing the specific boxing training for BKFC? He's been better at that than he was in UFC and MMA. Is this like a real sleeper upset kind of fight than Jake Paul needs to be worried?
Yeah, this is definitely a more dangerous fight than, a near 60-year-old Mike Tyson with ulcer flare-ups. Like that's, I mean, right there, it just says all that you need to know about the level of danger that he's not experiencing. This is a guy who is only, I want to say, like 7 or 8 years older than him. So he's like within the same age range, roughly. I mean, far younger than all of his other past MMA opponents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, and I want to say he knocked out Nate Robinson, who's like on kidney dialysis now. Like this. So this is the quality of opponents that Jake Paul has faced. So this is obviously a bump up. This is an active fighter who is doing his damnedest to make a name for himself in the world of combat sports. And he's done a spectacular job in BKFC doing that. The thing is, though, this falls into the other sort of issue with some of Jake Paul's opponents is that they tend to be a lot smaller than him. And that's really the biggest hurdle for Mike Perry is going to be the size difference. Like we look at like Tyron Woodley, for instance, even the past his prime version of Tyron Woodley. Look at that first fight. That there were moments where he pressed the attack and he was really getting the better of Paul. Had he been a little bit bigger, we might be talking about a totally different outcome.
Yeah.
Mike Perry's going to run into that same brick wall.
Yeah, and I think you perfectly nailed it, because that's the thing. The fight with Mike Tyson was supposed to be at heavyweight, so Jake's coming down a little bit, but Mike Perry predominantly fought welterweight a lot in the UFC. So that's a big factor, and then you factor in, for all the knocks against Jake Paul being an influencer turned boxer, like we see with him and we see it with his brother in WWE. These dudes are really good athletes. Jake is a very good athlete to come in and have the level of success that he's had with limited experience. So he's going to be bigger, probably the better athlete. I mean, I don't know if it's as dangerous or bigger threat than a Tyson fight. I think Tyson, even at his advanced age, he still is a freak athlete, and his power is always the oldest in the go. But I'm almost a little bit more interested in this fight. I think Mike will make it more interesting. It's not like, once Jake gets past the first couple rounds, it'll be less of a fight. And I don't want to see Mike Tyson possibly knocked out. Like, Perry is tough. He's gotten a lot of experience in training with boxing, and he's gonna give him a good fight. Even if he gets knocked out, like, this is very much he's gonna go out and shield. I think he fully gets, and I think we've seen that with his time in BKFC. He gets opportunities. He understands this is a huge opportunity for him to make money. So I think he's going to definitely go out on the shield, make it as entertaining a fight as possible. And in that way, maybe he'll push Jake. Maybe he'll be wild, and his chin will make it really crazy and interesting, more so than even Nate Diaz tried to do in that fight. That said, hypothetical, if Mike Perry scores the upset, which it isn't a crazy, shocking upset, but because of what we mentioned, the size, the age difference, he's not going to be the favorite. If Mike Perry wins this fight, does that mean, like, is the Mike Tyson fight then canceled? Is there any reason to care about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson if he loses to Mike Perry?
Depends on how he loses to Mike Perry. That will be the thing. If it's a loss like the Tommy Fury one, where it's like this debated split decision, probably can get away with it, because he rolled right into the Nate Diaz fight after that, and there was pretty much no disruption to the Jake Paul hype train. It just kept going, and it just diverted course slightly. So I see that being possible, because you also got to think too, Mike Tyson is a megastar in his own right, and while he is far removed from being a relevant pro fighter, he's still like this mega personality that has an international following, that you can walk into a back alley in any country in the world and people will know that's Mike Tyson. Yeah. So with his name attached to it, and even the fact, you still can't erase the fact that he's an old man with medical issues that's jumping in there against a younger guy. There's going to be some intrigue in that. even if it's, sick people that just want to see terrible things. Like there's some intrigue in that. So there's still value in that fight regardless. I do think it will lose some luster at the very least, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll still happen. There's just too many Coles or too many I forgot the term, but there's too much going on. That Netflix is already involved with it. They still made it's still going to be in Dallas Cowboys Stadium. There's too many deals set. There's too many expectations, but I think it'll be shockingly affected, and the interest will be like it will go from maybe it's one of those shocking kind of most watched fights in boxing this year and the last few years, so all of a sudden there's going to be conversations about how big of a disappointment disaster was, because just people will watch on Netflix, but if he loses to Mike Perry, I think that'll kill the interest in such a massive way. So what's your prediction? How do you feel this fight goes? Can he get a finish on Mike Perry? I think he definitely can. Like, how do you see that? What's your prediction for Jake Paul versus Mike Perry?
How many is this, an 8-rounder?
I think so. I don't think Jake's done anything close to a 12-round fight yet.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of think. I think that Jake Paul wins simply because he has been training just pure boxing, and at such a high level for a while now. I know Mike Perry has dialed in a lot with his hands, but being a knucklehead only gets you so far. I think Paul has proven himself to be enough of a tactician with enough devastating power to really stop a lot of people who are going to jump in there against him, unless, of course, they are these elite pro boxers. So I think Jake Paul wins. I'm not quite. I'll lean toward him not getting the finish. Mike Perry does have the knucklehead factor, and the knucklehead factor does keep you from getting knocked out a lot of times. So he's probably going to endure a beating in way to a very lopsided decision against him.
I'm gonna go knockout. And I just looked up. You are correct. It's an 8-round fight. I think he's gonna get to him just because like I said before, I think Mike's gonna try to make it an interesting fight. He's gonna push him. He's just gonna try to be aggressive. He's gonna try to just push him around and bully him a little bit. And I just think even then, with his experience, Jake's just a little bit more fundamentally sound, and he's gonna prepare for him. And he's legit power. I think he's just going to catch him with one of those shots he doesn't see coming, just like he's done to a lot of these talented former MMA fighters, stuff like that. So I'm going to go 7th round KO, and he'll probably knock him down once, maybe the 3rd or whatever. And it'll be fun though. It's not going to disappoint. I wouldn't be surprised if this is maybe one of Jake Paul's more entertaining fights, just because Mike Perry is just such a dog, and he's going to make something out of it, and he's going to try to make something out of the opportunity that's honestly probably the biggest fight of his career, just because of the spotlight that's on Jake Paul.
Yeah, you know what? I think the more interesting thing on here will be how Mike Perry's success in BKFC translates over to the boxing ring.
Yeah.
To
Yep.
That's where I'm more interested in. I just want to see if the same sort of punches are going to work for him. If he changes like his shot selection. There's so many little nuances that I'm really going to be watching for in that fight.
Yeah, and it's nothing against. He's got wins over Luke Rockhold, Eddie Alvarez, Michael Page. Even and they're even there. I think there's just a difference in the caliber. And not to say Jake Paul's an amazing fighter, but again, he's been training this specifically. He's got some solid talent. I think like you just said, I think there'll be a difference, and we'll notice it right away. Not maybe as much as we notice it with some of the MMA guys, but I think we'll notice it because despite some of those MMA guys he fought. Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz, I still think are more technically better as boxers than Mike Perry is. But Mike Perry is just tougher and stuff like that. So moving on from there, let's get into some UFC 304 preview prediction talk. The event's coming up at the end of the month. It's been a hot button topic itself because the event's going to be on late at night in the UK, so us Americans can see it at the times we're used to because we're so important. And God forbid they do a daytime pay-per-view, because those are always fun and we like it, and we'd like to have something to watch in the afternoon on a Saturday and go live our lives a Saturday night. Thanks, UFC.
I would love to see my family.
Yes, come on, UFC.
Love to spend time with my kids. That would be great.
I feel for the single guys that have to cover MMA, and just Saturday nights are in the crapper, most nights. I mean, dating on a Sunday after night, it's not the same.